Okay. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Christine Adamczak. Councilmember Linda Hammer. Councilmember Michael Jazinski.
Here.
Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Nowak.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Supervisor Diane Benchkowski.
Here. Okay, we have the full board here tonight. First item of discussion, we have Erie County Legislator Tim Myers. Tim, can you go to the podium? Make sure you speak right into the speaker.
How's this testing? Good?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for seeing me here tonight. I want to just go back a little bit from when we first started with our proposed projects that we had, and we ran into a bunch of obstacles, plus, not approval of the public, and that's what we do, right? We listen to the public, see what they want to say, input from the public, so we decided to move on. So we have a couple projects that we wanted to bring here in front of you today. And I want to thank Mark, and Paul, and John for helping us get this stuff together. But this is all coming out of that money that I secured from the American Rescue Plan money. But before we get to the projects that are in front of us, I just want to talk a little bit, real quick, briefly, about what has gone out the door affecting Cheektowaga. So originally, we got out $110,000 to Resurrection of Life. They're doing their expansion over there, and there needed to be some infrastructure work connecting the new facility being built with the old facility and that, so $110,000 went out of there. Chief Gould is here. We got him $500,000. Chief, you got your money? Okay. So $500,000 went to the police for the training, for the shooting range, and for classroom stuff of that nature. Also, we secured $40,000 for the Gerlach Post in Sloan, which has a very aging building, very aging membership, so they don't have the means to raise a lot of money, and so we helped them out with some stuff that they needed to do. One other one that I'm working on that's in the pipeline right now is I'm working with Camille Brandon on, I'm sure everybody knows about every commercial building in Cheektowaga has a lockbox on it, in case if the building starts on fire, it's after hours. Well, the way that it's set up now, the fire inspector they have to call in, you guys, somebody from the town is calling a fire inspector. They come there and unlock the building. So we're trying to secure 75 grand, so there would be one of these keys on each and every fire truck. So if they do respond to a fire, something after hours, they would have access to them buildings. So that's one, and the other one is I'm trying to work with, well, not work with, but Assemblyman Wallace got, I think, $100,000 for Bellevue Fire Company. They're looking to purchase an ambulance or something, but they were short. So they approached me about $50,000. So that's the other one that we're working on that has not been out the door yet. So that brings us to the point of why we're here today. So we just want to talk about 3 projects that are proposed. Two of them were, one was in the first original project that was going to be at Lawson Road, was adding a rest station to the back of Lawson Road Park. So the part of project 1 is going to be a new rest station in the back of Lawson Park and refurbishing the existing rest station at the front of Lawson Park. So them are 2 projects. I don't know if we're going to lump them together in the person.
We have a presentation that Kim is bringing up right
Good.
now, so
Okay.
I'll give some examples of what he's talking about and an idea of what he's presenting to you with the funding he's given the town.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know if they're going to be, probably that they're in the same park. They'll probably go under the same resolution and everything. I don't know, whatever's going to be easier. I think it's going to be easier to do 1 contract as opposed to 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to let Mark take over now. Right?
Sure, yeah, sure.
And you can just lead us through this,
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
the projects at Lawson, and then I'll come back when we start
absolutely.
talking about Cheektowaga.
Okay, Kim, could you bring that back up for me? All right, so the town of Cheektowaga has some of the best regional parks in the county, one of them being Stegelmeyer Park and the other one Cheektowaga Town Park. These parks have grown to become destinations for both Cheektowaga residents and surrounding communities. Next slide, please. Legislator Tim Myers, with his ongoing efforts to promote growth and prosperity in the town of Cheektowaga, has set aside $1 million of county Arpa funding for the construction of one new ADA-compliant comfort station and the remodel of an existing comfort station to meet ADA requirements in Stegelmeyer Park, and the installation of a new ADA-compliant playground equipment in Cheektowaga Town Park. The areas on this slide shows the existing comfort station that's being proposed for rehabilitation. If you look over here on the right, this is the existing playground on the east side of the park and baseball diamonds. And this existing comfort station there is the one that's being proposed for renovation. Could you, next slide, please? The existing comfort station has not met the needs of park guests who visit the east side of Stegelmeyer Park. Some of the proposed changes include demolition of the existing men's and women's toilet rooms and existing storage room, renovate interior of structure to increase the amount of plumbing fixtures, and add new ADA-compliant men's and women's toilet compartments, lavs, and urinals within that facility. Next, please. Proposed rehabilitation of the comfort station with ADA-compliant elements. So this is what's existing now, and you see ash. And what's new is you'll see the circles and the new sinks, toilets, lavs, and everything. Next slide, please. The new ADA compliant comfort station will be on the west side of the park near the football field, right adjacent to the, what stand is that? The food stand that's there presently, I believe. Next slide. Because there are no restrooms near the football field and baseball diamonds at the west side of the park, it was determined that new comfort station would best accommodate visitors that frequent this recreational areas. Benefits to the new comfort station: it creates a new ADA accessible toilet facility throughout the park. Currently, there is an insufficient amount of toilet facilities throughout the park, and the comfort station will help bridge the shortfall. Proposed facilities is determined to be one of the busiest areas of the park during peak season programs. This is the proposed comfort station elevation, so what it's going to look like from the outside when you're next to it. And the next slide is the interior layout of the new comfort station. Okay, click to the next. Now switching over to the Cheektowaga Town Park. There's a proposed ADA compliant playground and equipment at the Cheektowaga Town Park. It is the most utilized youth park in the town. The town park has an easy choice to add a new state-of-the-art playground for its residents. Next. The proposed location is near Diamond 4 and the Cultural Center. The playground will be centrally located with plenty of parking located on an accessible route for ease of access for anyone. There are two proposed phases. Phase 1, which is town purchase playground equipment and land development, and then phase 2 would be the accessible playground equipment courtesy of Legislator Tim Myers. Phase 1 features new playground equipment, rubber floor membrane, which I gave to you earlier to kind of feel what it is, accessible walkways and landscaping, and that's courtesy of the town of Cheektowaga through Arpa funding. And the next, phase 2 features additional playground equipment specifically adapted for children with disabilities, and that is courtesy through Legislator Tim Myers. And you can see here some of the pieces that we are receiving through his funding. And to end it, with the investments made by Legislator Tim Myers in the town of Cheektowaga, all patrons, both young and old, with or without disabilities, will have a more enjoyable experience utilizing the parks in a friendly, compassionate, and usable way for decades to come. Back to Tim.
Thanks, Mark. So again, I just wanted to say we had this funding that we secured, so we kind of wanted to spread it between both parks. You know, the original plan was, you know, with the first project was to add the new comfort station to the end of Lawson Road Park. So that's where we're at. I wanted to bring it to you guys. You guys can digest it, think about it, and see if you want to spend the money or not, or where we want to go.
Any council members?
I would just like to say thank know there's been people asking to have this done for probably 30 years because there wasn't a bathroom on that side of the park.
Right.
So we'd be able to get rid of those awful porta potties and stuff like that and actually have a bathroom that's ADA compliant also.
Right, I don't know, I'm sure there's some costs associated, but I don't even know how many porta potties are out there in that park. John, you know?
In that section between the current football field and 99 and 4, and then beyond that, there's pretty much seven of that.
Oh.
So you take them over the years, you'll achieve some kind of savings from just not paying for them. So again, appreciate you guys hearing from me. You can let us know, you know, how you want to proceed. So, because you know how these things are. You got to have development plans and sketches and contracts and all that stuff. So the sooner we can do it, the better, you know, because I know that the county's itching to get the money out the door because this money's been sitting in separate accounts for a while. But if anybody
I
has
just want
any-
to say thank you too.
Sure.
This looks like a great use of the funds that you have spread it out to, so everyone can enjoy a little
Right.
piece of the pie.
Any other questions?
Anybody?
Good. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Legislator, for coming in. Appreciate it. Okay, next we were going to discuss, did Mark or did you two have anything, or you're coming in now for this Packer truck? Okay, all right, so Mark Crystal or Paul, one of you, or Mark BFL, maybe, about the new Packer truck, the size. We wanted some discussion and clarification. Do you want to? He's coming in on Zoom.
So real quick, we had conversations about this Packer truck for a while now.
Oh, wait, hold on, let me get Scott because it's earlier than I thought. I didn't realize that, so let me text him to sign on if you would give me a minute. Is he out now? Oh, good. You told him to? Thank you, Kim. Okay, so he is on by phone. So go ahead, Mark,
Okay,
sorry.
Perfect, no problem. We've had conversations about this Packer truck for a while now, so as part of our Arpa allotment, we had some dollars set aside for the purchase of 2 new Packers. So we put the bid out, and then the discussion came to us with regards to size, 32-yard unit versus 28-yard unit. And then that's why, you know, Scotty's on the call. You guys received an email today, I believe, from Tom and Kevin at Central Garage. I don't know if you had a chance to read that or not. I have a copy with me if you guys didn't have a chance to read that or not. So basically, what we're looking for is a decision from the board as a whole as to what direction we want to go so that we can cater in and tweak the spec and get a real dollar unit for what the town wants, 32 versus 28. Okay, so that's why the discussions have been going back and forth. I asked Diane to bring it to the work session tonight so we can put this to get bed so we know what
finally.
direction we need to head in as far as speccing the unit out.
And then I also have Kim, I did have Scott Colwell put together the tonnage receipts for June, so we could take a look at to see how often we're over, by how much, are they making 2 trips? Kim, can you try to get that up? And I'm going to email this to the town board. I just got it late this afternoon, I'm sorry. So we can take a look and get a better idea about how much they're over. So there's tabs, see them at the bottom? I'm sending it now. No, I guess it's hard. Oh, good. So what's the date on that one that you? Yeah, but they're all June. June what? Oh, okay. Can you go to, like, I think they start June 1st. At the bottom? So we can see, like, for instance, on June 1st, they have the different routes, and it shows that Route 3, actually, that driver made 2 trips. Route 4, they made 2 trips, and Route 5, they made 2 trips. And there are a couple around 15.67 was the highest that day. Oh, and there's a 14. So what normally should the tonnage be?
Well, but basically, I can answer that. Those trucks, because, am I correct, Mark, we're operating under an R permit? So we can max out at 66,000 pounds. That includes the load, the weight of the vehicle. Most of them vehicles are probably 39,000, 40,000 pounds, roughly 20 ton. Legally, we cannot go over 13 ton on any of those vehicles. In some cases, they're 15, 16, 17 ton. This has been addressed for the last year and a half, as far as I can remember, and nobody wants to go back and dump. And that's part of why I'm looking at it, going to the smaller trucks. Plus, the biggest thing, in my understanding, he just blew one of the main packer cylinders on another one in the last couple of days. The trucks are the one that's suffering, and I think what nobody understands is the liability to the town. If there's ever an accident with one of these vehicles, we are going to get hung out to dry. It's going to be the big pocket deal. The liability is horrendous on this. And it's not only the garbage trucks. We're going out to Good Earth overloaded too. Now, we're going outside the town with those. What's the risk on that? We're not going to get somebody local. It's probably going to be the state police if they pull one of them over, or if there's an accident. Now, and the liability all falls on the taxpayers. And that's why I said, legally, without the R permit, I think the best we can do on those trucks is about 60,000, 60 to 62,000. Gross vehicle, 30 ton, 31 ton, that's it. You can look at that. It's a rarity. My assumption is, and like I said, as near as I can remember, it's been a year and a half, 2 years, we've been talking about the overloading. It is still going on. Why, I have no idea.
Well, Kevin mentions that the maximum load on these trucks should be around 14 ton. So
They're still exceeding all of them.
slightly, yes.
Depends on the unladen weight of the vehicle. The one that I know Kevin weighed in at just roughly 40,000 pounds. So 13 ton is in a ballpark. 15, 16, 17 ton, you make all the excuses in the world, there is none in my book.
Well, if you just scroll through some of these tabs, June 2nd, there were 2 that were over 14. June 3rd, there was one that was 16 ton and another one 17 ton, so that is totally unacceptable. But then you look at June 6th, there was one 15, 7th. There was another one that was 15, 8th. I mean, here's one for 16. So it's happening every day, at least 1 or 2 trucks. There's another one on June 10th that was like really high at 17.
And not knowing the first thing about these trucks or how they function, is there a gauge or anything that tells you how much you're carrying? Or is it just, you gotta eyeball it and just go with it and say?
They should
okay.
know when they're overloaded, Brian. Plus, yeah, and I want to add to it, and Mark, you guys both probably know, what's it doing to all these secondary side streets, overloading? Now, you take a place, I know Lawson Road, Como, they're all rated for 6 ton. How much often are we going to have to pave these streets because of the excess load hauling? There's a
Well,
cost
we've been
there.
doing it for years, Jerry. Like,
That doesn't make it right.
Basically, again, procedurally, you guys have a lot to discuss there. We're just trying to get an answer as to what we want to spec these units out. Because we did do one spec, mark that one spec out. We need to change that, and that's where the questions started to come into play. So we're just looking for direction as to where we want to head, procedurally between, the board, Kevin and Scotty. Those are questions that need to be answered, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, with the direction we want to head.
One of the questions I had was about the cost for the 28 versus the 32. And is it possible to put a bid out for 2 and only accept one of them?
We could do that, Brian, yes. We could put out a bid with an alternate A and alternate B, and based on prices, come back to the board and say, okay, this is the cost difference from a 32 versus a 28, and see if it meets within budget and where we want to head that way. So that is feasible, absolutely, yes.
And when I asked about that, I know you guys mentioned that the 28s were going to be less expensive, which is what I expected. So,
But that's a good point, so we could see the biggest difference. And also, my concern was making 2 trips. We'll definitely have to make 2 trips then if we downsize. So what about the rising price of gas? That's my question.
I had
I mean-
wondered, though, if we're already overloading the trucks that we have, let's just say we go up to the bigger size, and then we still keep overloading. I mean, then you have a heavier truck that does more damage to the roads, it's gonna use more gas because it's so heavy, I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration as far as that goes, so.
That's internal procedures and discussed at that point.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking, why would we want to go smaller? Why not go bigger? Because they last 10 to 15 years. And because not all these trucks are to the maximum every day either. So, although they will be if we just go with that smaller size.
And again, Diane, I'll defer to Tommy and Kevin's email earlier, which again, you know, to Jerry's point, the overlading is also hurting them with the maintenance issues, because now you're getting more stress on the trucks, more stress on this. Again, by compacting 15 ton of these units, it also adds more wear and tear on the units. That's why they were recommending going smaller. Okay, so that's, again, their expertise as far as the maintenance end of it goes. Okay, so once again, we're just trying to figure out the best for the town, and then you guys can figure out procedural what makes more sense.
Yeah, but when you look at these, not every truck is at over the max, and there's quite a few days that are not. That's all I'm saying is.
Well, I think it might alleviate some of the damage to the trucks too, Mark, for the simple reason, I don't know how many have been damaged in-house in the garage trying to back them in, you know, because of the 32-yarders. Is this going to cure it? Unless the department head gets his act together and knows what is going on, they have to start dumping twice no matter what. I think the whole thing is, and I even hate to bring this up, is the incentive program where quicker we get done, the quicker we go home. 11 o'clock, we're out the door, who cares? But I'll tell you, I think back 2 months ago, the sanitation repair budget had run out already. And I do believe there's either 2 or 3 vehicles, possibly 4 down at this point in time. And a lot of it's due to abuse, overloading them. It's that simple.
Well, they're waiting for parts too. They've been waiting for parts since the beginning
Yeah,
of
but
2020.
a lot of this is relative to overloading them, Diane. The cylinder they just blew out, I think Kevin told me it's like $4,000 or $5,000. God only knows when we're going to get one. And like I said, a lot of this is all relative to overloading. It's like taking a half-ton pickup truck and putting 2 ton in the back of it and drive it around. See how long it lasts. It doesn't.
Scott's on the phone. Scott, do you want to add anything? I'm sorry.
Well, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Diane?
Yeah, is there any way we can turn up the sound for?
Okay, I got it maxed out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm in a bad, everybody's cutting in and out, so I'm getting bits and pieces. And if you guys can hear me, everybody's point is well taken, especially Jerry's. We talked about this, like you see on the charts, that there are guys that are going dump twice. Obviously, I will go whatever the board chooses based on whether it's the smaller one or the bigger one, but I do favor the bigger one, obviously with the McNeilius, and I guess we'll just go from there and hopefully for the best for everybody.
I got a question, Scott. Why are we still not dumping mid-morning? Why do we constantly overload these trucks?
Probably, Jerry, because, I'm going to be honest with you, because like you said before, I tried telling them, and I do, and there's usually only basically around 2 trucks that I have problems with, because obviously you can see the chart and you can follow the pattern. It's on Wednesdays and Fridays is the ones that, and I told the guys over and over again that you need to dump twice.
So why aren't they doing it?
Because if they don't, then obviously I'll have to start writing them up and sending them home.
And I don't
If
mean
that's
it's
the
in a
case.
bad way, Scott. Are the drivers running the department, or are you?
No, I'm running the department always.
Then there's no reason they should be refusing to dump.
You are correct. I am the department head and I make the rules.
Scott, you'll handle that internally, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes,
we're
I will.
going with the McNeilius? And
Yes,
you're
I believe that's a
Scott, I don't know
consensus.
if you heard, we're thinking of bidding out the 28 and the 32 ton and see the price difference.
Yes, I did hear that. That is correct. That's fine.
So is the board okay to at least have Mark proceed with that type of bid?
I like Councilmember Nowak's idea of getting bids on both trucks, looking at them, because they may be close and we say, hey, yeah, the investment for a little bit more is fine. They may be far apart and we say that one is just way out of budget, so it doesn't hurt to get both.
I'd like to move forward with both if we could, but once we get prices, we have to accept one of them quickly. We certainly need the trucks, and Central Garage is recommending the 28, so we should all keep that in mind. And it's probably going to be less expensive. It doesn't hurt to bid them both out to see, but the turnaround time, we're looking at, what, a year and a half, 2 years, maybe longer? So as soon as we do get word of what the price is, we've got to move quickly to accept one, so that way we can get in line to get the equipment.
And I think also we got to make sure it's the McNeelius, because the other bid came back and it wasn't, correct? So if you,
They were asked, there was questions of why it was specified for the McNeelius, it came back as a heel. Heel is the actual company that found out that we put out a notice to bid. They presented it to fleet maintenance, and then fleet maintenance went forward with heel, going with their design because they brought them the actual bid.
okay.
Fleet maintenance didn't even know that we put anything out. It was heel that brought it to
Is there any way you know who manufactures the McNeelius that you can get the,
I've already been working
start-
on it. I'm already in contact with a gentleman.
at least
from,
mailing them out there?
Maintenance.
Or
He's getting me quotes for the McNeelius 28, and I'll ask him for the 32-yard as well.
Good. Okay. Sounds good, guys. Thank you very much. And thank you to the board. So we can get moving on this for Scott. Okay, Councilmember Nowak wanted to talk about the use of ARPA funds for the fire districts.
I know we've talked about this a couple times before, but I wanted to try to get us to a conclusion on what we were thinking about all this. And since the last time we spoke, had a little bit of an update from the Fire Chiefs Association. They had a meeting Tuesday the 19th, so a week ago. And the feeling of the room there was that they didn't see the air trailer as a priority or as necessarily a need. They did raise interest in Lucas CPR devices and, interest in portable radios and a need for that. I know we talked before about potential ARPA investments in AEDs as well, but, with COVID and in the response to that, it's an issue that hits the respiratory system, and, we talk about things like making sure that we can quickly respond to folks. The lock boxes, the Knox boxes help speed up response, and especially you get folks to the scene. If you've got AED equipment that's stationed in as many vehicles as possible and as many locations as possible, making sure that we're making all the investments we can in terms of CPR, that's going to help save more lives, Cardiac events are becoming a larger part of EMS response, generally speaking. So I know we had a spreadsheet that was sent to us about what was remaining on ARPA funds, and the number right now is about $3.3 million that the rest of it's spoken for from various sewer projects, road projects, things like that. But, going back to what I've said in the previous discussions here, at least the AED project, some form of that, I would really like to see the town use some of the ARPA funds to do our part to make sure that we have AED units in every vehicle possible, in every location possible. And I don't know if the opinions of folks up here have changed since I've spoken with you previously or one-on-one, or where everybody is on it, so I'm just going to throw it out open to all of you.
Kim, did I send you that spreadsheet that Brian Kraus put together? I don't know if you can put it up, because let's look at where we are now, though. I think that'll give us a better idea we don't have a whole lot left.
And just for clarification, we're using some ARPA for these trucks, right? For the
Yes, two, yeah.
Right.
Let's look at how much, Brian Kraus, do you remember how much we have set aside for that? For the two Packers?
Yeah, it's
Oh, there it is.
$510,000. Councilman Nowak is correct, that there's $3.3 million remaining. That's, I guess, where you gotta determine how you wanna prioritize that money.
Right, so if you go to that, under the bottom black line, that's the stuff that's left, and I just wanted to, I was looking at that, and I thought, well, we better look at some major ones that we need to do, because if we don't use the ARPA, we're passing the cost along to the residents. And one of them was the Rick Holburn's private side inspections that have to be done according to the DEC consent order. Rick? Yeah. Those have to be done, right? That's part, and Mark? So that's 1.4 million estimated, but that was an old estimate. But that's the DEC consent order, and if we don't use any ARPA, maybe some of it at least, we're passing that cost on to the residents. Also, we talked about the Raymond Avenue road reconstruction and the Shanley Pleasant Willow Lawn area needs the full depth road reconstruction. Right, Mark? That's what you presented to us, that? Yes. And the facilities request for the fuel tank. Was that at Town Park? Yes. I didn't realize we didn't give you the okay to get going on that. Okay, so are we in agreement that we said okay for him to go forward with that? Because that's in kind of the pending list.
I thought we agreed to that early in the year.
Yeah, $100,000. So Brian Kraus, can you, and so that one is a go. And what about the full road reconstruction? The Raymond Avenue was 2 million, and the Shanley area, Pleasant, Willow Lawn, et cetera, is at 4 million. And Rick Colburn's private side inspections are at 1.4 million. I mean, is everybody okay for him to get a quote out? Although we don't even have enough in there for that.
I mean, some of it, we don't have solid numbers for still, like Coburn said, he's still gotta bid it out and see how much that's gonna cost. I mean, these are just guesstimates right now. Even with the AEDs, I fully support the AED project, but, you know, how many AEDs does this look like? You know, who needs them, where are they going, and how many do we need, and then that cost. And to identify it right now, we've got just some guesstimates, but they could be over guessed or
Rick's
lower.
staff, can you come up, Rick? Because your fire inspectors did an analysis of how many the town alone needs for the AEDs.
Right, Craig McConaughey and Joe Enos, the fire inspectors, did visit all the town facilities and found out where they were and the age of those devices, along with the batteries and how those batteries are expiring. The intent, along with most of the people we've discussed with, is to get one uniform device that we could use, and then with our coordination with our emergency services contract, they can give us close to expiring batteries that we can change out regularly, so they're willing to take ones, because they use them very regularly, and they can switch them out with us. But something that's uniform that we can kind of keep on a management plan, that we update them and certify them on a regular basis. Right now, it's kind of independent between departments. All departments had a meeting about a year and a half ago discussing these AEDs, that it should be uniform and managed by one department that can keep certifying and along with inspecting all of them across the town and all their facilities. We do have a list. We do have all the documentation as far as specific devices, along with the batteries, their expiration dates, and the anticipation of their life expectancy. So some of them are almost all on the way out, but we didn't want to get involved with buying any new ones until we actually made a town-wide determination of what device, along with manufacturer, and then which one we're going to use. So we do have that information. As far as the cost, we haven't put it out to bid because we just need to.
Do you remember? Because I printed out some of the emails, and I can't remember what the cost was. I don't see it on here.
I want to say we didn't really specifically go town-wide all of the devices. I think we just found out what one was going to cost, and then depending on when we're going to start replacing them out, like every year, 2 years, 3 years, we're going to change them out as they expired. But I don't have a total cost for all the devices at one time.
Rick, we're just doing town facilities,
Yes.
not private gyms?
No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about other, facilities that do require them, but they're mandated by, state code that they would have to have those available in those facilities.
I have an invoice here from Cardiac Life.
I think that was just the one device, I believe.
Was it?
I think, I didn't look at the total cost. I think-
$733.
Yes,
Does that
that's
sound like
about right.
for one?
Right,
Okay.
1,700? Yeah,
Oh, all right, so maybe this was just using what we have and
yeah, and battery
replacing pads
replacements,
and
right,
things.
and bringing them up,
Okay.
correct.
And I think that would, I mean, what does everybody else think? We should probably do something with those AEDs, because that's another mandate.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to have them. Yeah,
Mhm.
so the Narcan boxes and that we
Oh,
can get
yeah.
right now from the county for free.
Mhm.
We can get that rolled out, and then the AED boxes, I think, should be in every town building and, accessible, and I'm assuming the fire departments already have them on their rigs and trucks and all that, but I could be wrong.
EMS vehicles, yeah.
They have them on them all?
Mhm.
And then gyms by law have to have them. Daycare centers do not have to have them, but daycare centers right now are receiving a lot of money through the state and the feds right now for that. So there's money there that they can purchase it if need be.
Yeah, we know exactly what we're looking as far as the quantity and locations. It's just, the 4 department heads that were primarily responsible, those within their buildings, really felt if one department was actually to manage them and keep them updated would be best for the town, from our discussion.
And I think everybody responded, they agreed to that, right, from the board? That's a good idea?
I'll follow up with the inspectors and finish those.
Yeah,
those
I'm
emails.
sure it was in one of the emails. Unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me, but I think that was a good idea, at least, that Councilmember Noack had, and it seems like the board's in agreement to look at
Great.
that project. I just don't know how much.
The amount that is forecasted by the estimate put together by the folks at the Fire Commissioners Group was about 295,000. I don't think we would use all that, but I would ask that we at least put that aside for the moment and not spend that out of ARPA, that 295,000, because if we don't need that all for AEDs, then we can get into the Narcan side of things and use some of that 295K to fund that, or figure out where we need to get it from, because we can get county support, state support on something like that, but we may have to make some purchases ourselves,
But we only have $10,000, or is it 10 million left? Right. 3.3 million. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. We only have the 3.3 million, so we could set aside that amount. I think everybody's in agreement, so I'm going to put an okay for that, and then you can get us the quote.
Yes, absolutely.
So Brian Kraus, can you put an okay for that, the defibrillators? Yes, yeah, so that's when, for at least our town buildings as a start. And
Right,
then-
I'll work with John, and John will coordinate with specifically all his, and then Jill had hers, and there's
Right.
quite a few there.
The
from the
pools
departments, so
and-
exactly.
Mhm.
And then the town campus, and
And part of this goal will be making sure that everything is uniform, right?
yes,
Same
that's the
device
intent,
everywhere.
correct.
Because one of the things that can help as far as training town employees or other folks, if it's the same device, it's easier to use.
Yes.
Some folks that are really experienced in, EMS service, they could see slightly different devices and easily adjust, but when you get trained on one thing, you know that one thing, right? So, I mean, it'd be great to get over to the same device everywhere to speed things up,
And I think also the training should be uniform around the town, as far as when they offer it up, each department, each building has an opportunity to be trained on the AEDs. Some people aren't just gonna step up and grab it, but the more people that are trained in the event of an emergency would help.
I mean, the other question is, and I forgot to mention this, and I see the chief here, about the school resource officers. Thank you,
Okay,
Rick.
no.
So we're going to put that as an okay.
So, and kind of on that, you guys were talking training. I mean, they're useless if people aren't trained on them. So we definitely need to roll out training for the AEDs, just training in general for equipment. We've had this conversation numerous times, whether it's just safety before you take a vehicle out. I think we need to look at that hard and close and address that issue, because it's a big issue right now.
Just to confirm, we're in agreement of putting the 295,000 aside to fund this project?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
for now, yeah. We'll try to get a better idea, but we're going to set that aside. So that leaves us a little bit left over, and I think we should do 1.4 for the I&I inspections, and maybe the 600,000. Chief, do you want to come up and just give us a brief overview of this school resource officer dilemma? We're looking for other sources of revenue, but
The four school superintendents of the town of Cheektowaga, the four districts that are solely within the town, have approached the police department and some of the town board members about having a full-time school resource officer assigned to each district. Costs associated with that, the PBA contract puts full-time school resource officers at PO5 rate, so we know how much we'll pay in salary and benefits. And then there's a cost to add, since we're adding 4 officers to our actual total number of officers, that's four more police cars. They gotta have a car to get to the school, body cameras, equipment, weapons, that kind of stuff. We are working with trying to secure some funding through some of our local elected officials outside of our town. We do have a meeting coming up this week that Bob Brandon has set up through Senator Tim Kennedy's office to see if there's some state funds that can be used. I'm also closely watching to see the announcement from the President of the United States about funding for police agencies, as there was a hint prior to him getting sick about an announcement he was about to make about funding. So I think there's a lot of funding sources, not to mention that there is a past precedence, and the school districts do understand that they also are willing to or may have to cover part of the cost or some of the costs associated with adding adding an officer full-time to their district too. So it would be a shared cost possibly between the town and the school districts.
and this 600,000 is only for 1 year.
Yeah, so the quick math, just putting the quick math together, approximately $150,000 for salary and fringe benefits, and then so that's how much I'll have per year for 4 officers. The equipment to start everything brand new, approximately $200,000. That's a vehicle, body camera, licensing, equipment, other equipment that the officers would have to carry. So the total ask year 1 would be approximately $800,000. Again, we can work with what we get. The important point is getting the officers in the school to protect the people and the children who are in the school.
Thank you, Chief. So is everybody in agreement? At least we'll keep that on our radar right now. And
Yeah.
Let's,
Is there a way, if we came, let's say, 200,000 short and our 600,000 between the school district and the town, we're short officers right now, can we use the equipment that's already there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I say there's some flexibility, absolutely. We're talking a police vehicle that'll go from our parking lot to the school parking lot all day. So, although we don't want our police cars driving around with 150, 200,000 miles on them because they're operating 24/7 and sometimes at high speeds. It's a little bit different on some of our vehicles. Those vehicles, could we use a car that we take out of regular patrol service? We could. Ideally, we find funding that covers something that we can use for the next 8 to 10 years, and you mentioned, we're not at full staff. I'm trying to get to full staff. If I assigned 4 officers to the school right now, I have enough equipment to make it happen, but my goal is to have, it's affecting what's on the streets. So the goal is, if we add 4 school resource officers, that we're not doing that at the expense of the streets. So at some point, my goal is to have our manpower up to our full staffed 130 number, but I'm supposed to hire 7 today too, and we're hiring 6. So we continue to struggle when it comes to reaching our number. Retirements are happening faster than we can replace people, which helps us with equipment, to get back to your question.
anybody else? Any council members? While the chief's still here? Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. So we'll keep that as a good maybe, depending on what the chief finds out there and what he needs just to get started. And then we have the fuel tank. And what about the private side inspections? We also have two other things I didn't mention, which was 3 pickups with the plows for facilities and the existing pools with new splash pads. I think we're working on other grant money for that too. We might not have to use this, I'm hoping.
With the vehicles for facilities, I'm not doubting that they're needed. I just don't think we should use ARPA for those. It's one of those things that we're gonna have to make sure going long into the future that we're replenishing those out of general fund. So I think we should find some money in general fund to take care of those.
Yeah, I
Just my
kind of
opinion.
agree, because we do have some other, not that we're saying you don't need them, John, but we'll get those to you somehow in your budget. We're gonna have to accommodate you for that. The senior van, I think, is taken care of already through Rachel, correct? Yes. Thank you for helping us with that. So we can take that as, take it right off the list, because that's taken care of already. And then the development of Walden and Genesee. I don't know how everybody feels about it, what else to use this money on. I don't, any, like, priorities right now. It looks like the road reconstructions and the I&I and this development of Walden and Genesee are the ones we have left.
How much time do we have to spend on this? I think we have 3 more years left or so. So, I mean, to be down to 0 at the end of this meeting scares the
Well, all right, well, give
daylights
it
out of
some,
me.
you're right, I'm not saying that, but I think we just have to decide about Rick Colburn's, because he has to get that RFP out. Don't we have to get going on those, Rick?
Yeah, actually, really Pat's had it, and we've had it for a while. It's really outsourcing it, and part of the inspections and us supporting those inspections. So just really going out to bid for the outside I&I from a third party.
I don't know what dollar amount of a cushion is safe to leave there, but I would think we want to leave a little bit, because we've already heard of some cost increases just because of, unanticipated, or because of inflation and other unanticipated issues. Tongue twister.
Well, and then we do have the road reconstruction, but if we have to, we can always bond those. Correct, Brian? Yeah. That's easier to do the bonding for those projects, and some of them might be in low to mod income areas, so maybe we can ask Rachel to be on the lookout for us. Yeah. Okay. All right, any questions on this then? So where we're standing right now. So we should tell Rick to put the notice to bidders out. Let's see what it comes in at, and then we can decide how much of this we want to use towards it. Is that good?
Works for me.
Okay. So that part is done. And then, is Jill Murphy here? Is she on the line? Oh.
I'm here.
Hi, Jill.
Hello.
So, we talked about this a couple months ago, that we wanted to hear the plan for next year, and then this whole thing came up about this contract that we need to have me sign. So I think I sent you a few questions, like, hold on, let me just switch my folders.
I know your first question asked about the deadline date of June 24th. I just wanted to let you know that I am in constant contact with New York State. They're aware that it's going before the board, so they're fine with that. They said it's not a hard deadline, and they do give leeway on that deadline just because of people just completing grievance day, and we've had some staffing issues, so they said not to worry.
Oh, good, perfect. Okay, and then, are we on Plan A or B with our contract with GAR?
Well, we have not discussed that yet. What I'm waiting for is, I sent you that information that New York State comes out with our ratios in the fall time. And the reason why they do that is because our sales have to be in the system up until July 1st of 2022. So they measure our roll against sales from July 1st, 21 through July 1st, 22. It takes there's about it can be a month turnaround time, 1 to 2 month turnaround time, but from the time that the resident closes with the county clerk and the information gets to us, we enter it in the system, we pass it on to New York State, and all that information is used to measure the roll to see where we're assessing. So that I anticipate those things will come out late September, early October.
Okay, because that schedule looked like, yeah, things should be happening now. I'm looking at the GAR contract.
Yeah, we're going to meet with them. We usually have a standing meeting in August where we sit down and we go through all our schedules. Anything that we put in writing, I will make sure that I get to the board.
Okay, yeah, August, it says residential statistical analysis. Because of the fact that we signed the cyclical reassessment, I would assume we're continuing with that, correct?
Yes. The cyclical does not, so there's two ways we can go about this. Like I said, we can just accept the rate that they give us, or we can stay at 100. Because of the resolution, I was staying at 100, but I know that there's been discussion about just accepting the equalization rate. So it'll be a little easier to judge once I have the statistical data from ORPS to say what we're looking at, because if they measure the sales against my roll and we're between 95 and 100%, I can claim 100 as my level of assessment. And we wouldn't have to do anything other than if there was a building permit or a new build or something along those lines, that would be the only value change that we'd need at that point.
Well, let's hope that's the case. I don't know.
I'm hoping for that as well.
Okay, and we already got the 75,797 aid for that 2021, that first year that we did in the cyclical cycle.
That's correct.
So it seems to me if we don't continue with that program that we would have to pay that aid back.
I don't think we have to pay it back. I would have to check with ORPS on that. I just think that if we stay within the program, we're already doing the work. And then we would still, if we do the full value, the full data collection in the fourth year, then we get 75,000 back to help us with that program.
Okay.
I'd have to verify whether or not we'd have to pay that money back. I'm not exactly sure about that.
Okay. So then, with the 35,000 parcels in this last, I know there's different kinds, commercial, vacant, residential, whatever. So that included commercial, all of them?
Yes,
utility?
that's inclusive of everything. That's every parcel. That's all the roll sections. So that's included in that parcel count.
Okay. Do you by any chance know how many homes received an increase in their assessment from 2021?
I was going to pull that information together. My all my year-end data is broken down by roll sections. So I'm going to split out commercial and residential, and I'll send that information to you. It doesn't break it out. It does the town as a whole. So I want to give you firm numbers on that. So I will run some additional reports to get that information for you.
Yeah, and also I kind of like to see what stayed the same, if anything did.
Yes.
Maybe we can then somehow have an idea what direction we're going in.
Yes, I can do that for you.
And my one other question was about the utility appraisals. That was part of it.
Yes, I have gotten utility appraisals in 2019, 2020, 21, and 22. I sent in the request on July 7th for the 2023 roll, and I use the values that are on the appraisal in my roll.
Okay, good. The MOU states our RPS processing fees. Do we use any of their services?
No, I looked at that. That's for some towns do not have the ARPA software, so they cannot generate those reports. Because we have that, I generate those reports in-house, so it's not any additional cost. I can do that right in my office.
Okay. And I guess I wanted to ask about the cyclical plan, but you already mentioned that, and you still don't know what you're doing for 2023 yet?
Correct. Once we get the statistical data run, then we'll know. But the problem with that is that we don't have all the sales in through July 1st, and that's how we measure our roll.
Okay.
From sales from July 1st of 21 through July 1st of 22, they take that as a measure against our assessments, and that's how they determine what our equalization rate will be.
Yeah, so that's when I asked about the public information process, so we get ahead of ourselves with this, so
Yes.
you can come back to us in the fall in a couple months and.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to meet with the contractor next month, and I'm going to send updates as frequently as I can to the board so that you know every step of the way what's going on.
And to get the public involved sooner than later.
Yes, yes.
You know,
That's what that's another thing that I'm going to work on. We wanted to do maybe monthly. I'm still working that out, but we want to do classes for residents to educate them on the assessment process, because what we're seeing is a lot of people have a lot of bad information out there. So we want to get in touch and have smaller classes where people can bring their tax bills in and we can talk about that. So that's something that I'm working on right now. We started the process, and we think we're going to, we've discussed sending out a bulletin with all this information in it. We're going to change our website so that it corresponds with where we are in the assessment cycle. So if we're, say, doing informal reviews, all that information is going to be, in one button and a click, and so it's easier to find. We got a lot of feedback this year. We've taken all that feedback and we're reworking some of the things on our website, and we see that there's a definite need for education. We've actually had some residents ask for education on assessments, so that's something we're kind of looking forward to doing.
Yeah, and sooner, like, you're gonna give them
Yeah.
a preliminary, like, usually March 1st, you send those preliminary?
Well, because it's not, it's only maintenance. If we stay at 100, then we do maintenance, and it's not a full reval. That's why we're not required by law to do informals. I'm not opposed to doing informals. And again, that's why we're gonna meet in August, and I will know more by the beginning of September. I'm gonna give you early September. I will at least have a plan and a direction that we're going, so everybody's aware of it. And we will get some classes out there and get the process going. I still would like people to come to classes, even if we don't change, because they don't understand. A lot of the residents don't understand the laws or the system. So we'd like to get out there and help people who are interested in learning.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be good. So then the rest I can probably address when you come back to the board in a couple months, and you can give us a plan.
Yeah, you could, like I said, you call me anytime if you have questions. The questions that you sent me were great, because then I kind of got a feel for what you were looking for as far as information, because in my office, I have so much information that I can overwhelm people with it. So sometimes bringing your questions to me, I can give a better answer. Otherwise, I tend to, I don't like to overwhelm people with information.
So basically, the resolution tonight is just to sign on for another year with the cyclical, that plan, correct?
Yes. In fact, if you notice where it says, if we're going to stay at 100%, I put to be determined. So that, that's something that we will discuss after we have the statistics. We may not, if we can stay at 100, it's not going to be an issue. If we're going to drop below 100, then we have to do some work and decide if we're going to switch to cyclical or if we're going to maintain 100%.
Okay, Jill, let me open up to board members. Who did Brian?
Yeah, just one question. But,
Okay.
you guys can go first. I can take it at the end.
Brian Plarski?
I'm glad on the resolution it says to be determined there, and then when we come to that determination, I'd like to see a resolution spelled out exactly year one, year two, so there's no surprises for the residents and this board here, so no one can say they didn't know. So it's just spelled right out in a resolution, and it's black and white right there. That'd be helpful for
I think
everyone.
I attached, though, our plan for 4 years originally. It's in my email. I sent it. I copied the whole board, and their plan is in there.
Yeah, I think having something in a resolution to where residents can also see it and know,
Yes.
hey, this is coming up next year, the year after,
Yes.
or 3 years from now. There's no, I didn't know.
That's where the confusion came in, because we have the resolution saying that we have to stay at 100. And so we can do cyclical and stay at 100. That's, that's not a problem. But so we just have to decide, like Brian said, we have to have something that we're all clear on, and then, we can then put it out for the residents to see, so everybody's on the same page.
Brian Oak?
Sure. So suppose the decision was made to accept the equalization rate instead of staying at 100%. We're going to have to act on 2014 150, right? We're going to have to do something about that. When's the latest you would need to know, or the board would have to make a decision, whether it were, let's rescind it or put on pause for a year? Like, when do you need to know what the board's feeling is on such a thing?
As soon as I have the statistics that I can bring to you and say, we're either going to stay at 100 or we're going to drop to whatever the state says our equalization rate is, we should at that point. So I'm saying early October at the very latest. Obviously you need the information too. But once we have that, if everybody just kind of had in their mind what direction they want to go in, that would be extremely helpful.
So, I mean, getting into this in January, February next year would be a problem, right? You would need more advance notice than that to do everything you need to do in your office on a timely basis, to notify residents and to roll out what we did historically in terms of going above and beyond the legal minimums of notice to residents and things like that. So if we wanted to do anything, we've got to do it this year and not next year, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So part of that plan with the resolution I was talking, if we have something in regards to saying, hey, we come back to the board in September, discuss this, we got the rates, we decide in October, letters go out in March, so, really spelled out for a timeline, I think would also be helpful, not only just for when we're gonna do the assessments, but the timeline of the whole process. I think training on this date, public meeting on that date, et cetera. I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, that's what we do in August when we sit down with the contractor and plan. That way I can ensure there's enough staff, because the contractor helps with staffing. So if we're having a class and, we can register people and it'll help with staffing. So I will set up a schedule. We do have a schedule, and I'll follow that, and we'll get that all in writing for you so that everybody knows beforehand what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Okay, so I had formed a subcommittee, the Cedar Grove Park Meeting Committee, that included Councilmember Nowak, Councilmember Hammer, and Councilmember Pilarski, and you had that last week. So can you give us an update? How did that go?
Yeah, me personally, I thought it went very well. I was surprised and shocked with the turnout. I thought, all right, not many people show up. There's quite a bit. There's 40 to 50 residents there, in addition to John from Parks, Rachel from Community Development, Chief Gould, representation from Senator Kennedy and Assemblymember Wallace's offices, and then Councilmember Hammer, Nowak, and myself. So it was a very nice turnout. Some of their concerns, all the concerns were valid. We just unfortunately see things differently. One sees a 6, the other person sees a 9. But I think at the end of the meeting, we've come to some common ground. Some residents wanted the park there. Some didn't want it there. Some were worried about noise and garbage. Some were worried about the safety of the equipment, hence why we're replacing it and all that. But there was a common theme straight across that everybody shared that an issue with was communication from the town. Many, if not all of the residents there, I think maybe 1 or 2 said they actually knew this change was coming. But many of them just didn't know about it. They, even though we had our public hearings, we posted on, the website, we posted in the Bee, Some of it's on social media, but they don't have those resources. And that's like a lot of things that we try getting out, assessments being one, garbage not getting picked up during COVID. I don't have the one answer because not everybody uses the one tool for communication, but some just don't have the internet. Some don't have access to the B. Some, don't watch our meetings or even come because they can't get here. So I would recommend myself, if we're doing, community development block grant funding, maybe we mail out, to those neighbors just in that area. I mean, we got out 200 letters the 2 days before the meeting, and we had a very good turnout of that 200. I mean, just say 50 people responded. I think that's a great turnout. And of it also came, maybe they want to have a block club now. So there's going to be a second follow-up meeting. They understand the park's going in, and there's no stopping in the park, but they also are concerned about things like garbage there, and John's going to be all on it. He says, yeah, I'm on it. I'm good to go. They were concerned about safety and loitering and things going on there that were, illegal. And we looked at the police reports, and there's not many calls. So we encouraged call. We can't, look at, put the call logs, pull up call logs and say, hey, there's only 7 in the year. It doesn't justify a camera up there or patrols more frequently there versus other high need areas in the town. So we encourage the residents to kind of make calls, call John if there's garbage there that may have been missed, or maybe it was a heavy weekend there. He'll get a crew out there. It's just being, communication. That's really what it came down to, is both-way communication. Them not knowing that this project was going on and changing, and us not knowing that there's issues there that they say there are. So at the end of the day, I think it was successful. We will have a follow-up meeting. I'm going to email all the residents that were there and mail the residents that don't have email copy of the layout of the park plan as we promised them. We got that from engineering today, so thank you, Mark, on that. And we'll get that out in the next day or two by the end of this week, and they'll be able to see the full park plan. But in the end, we all walked away, happy with the outcome, because there now may be a community group for Cedar Grove that will meet at the church right there, because they want to be more involved as well. So if you guys want to add more?
You covered pretty much all of it. One of the things I wanted to add is that the question of the sidewalks being taken out came up. A few of the residents expressed concern about the impact that might have on drainage, water flow, and all that on their properties. I gave them my cards. I said, give me a call, email me. I haven't heard from the couple specific people I spoke to about it, but that was brought up. Getting back to the concerns of safety in the park, I don't know if the chief can come up for a moment and speak to it. I know you probably don't have precise figures in front of you, but if you can at least speak to the change in trends in calls for service and things like that.
I do have numbers. But, so one of the things that the police department is very good at is tracking statistics. Every time a call is made into our dispatch center that requires a response, an incident card is punched, approximately 60,000 such a year. And everything is coded by an address. Cedar Grove Park has its own geocode, its own address, so it's easy to pull up the number of times that the police have been called or took action within Cedar Grove Park. I've got stats for the past 6 years. 2017, 18, heavy years. We had, and a lot of those were checkpoints. Checkpoints because we did see some crimes taking place in the park, and we responded by upping our patrols in the park. So every time a police officer would drive through the park, he would ask dispatch to punch an incident card to document the fact that the park was checked. Just for example, in 2018, there were, I'm adding 2 different categories together, about 140 park checks done at that park. And that's in response to, a couple disturbances, a couple fights, a couple trespass, which is probably people in the park late at night. So one of the things that the community, when they express concerns about, police presence and technology that could help us patrol and keep the park clean or safe, I mentioned cameras, and we have a portable camera that we can move around, and we could easily put it up in that park. But the calls for service just don't justify the expense of that camera being in that park. Right now, the bike path is being hit along the railroad tracks. We have people cutting holes in the fence and going onto the trains and stealing stuff from the trains. So please don't print that I'm putting.
Well, you're on YouTube now.
Too late, we will have a camera in that area. That's where we're putting our resources. So maybe if you're the bad guy watching, we're going to have you on camera now. But, stuff like that, bottom line, like Councilman Pilarski said, is we urge the residents, no matter where you are, to call, and we can address problems. You know, we've had problems in the Galleria Mall. We've worked with Walden Galleria ownership. We've expanded the escort policy. We've got Erie County probation. We can address things, but to say that we don't want to improve things just because it might cause more problems to happen, I think that's a short-sighted view, and I encourage not only our residents but our board to be happy that there's an investment being made in that community, and we're seeing calls for service in general, not only the park, but I looked at some stats for the entire Cedar Grove community, like all the streets off the big circle, and calls for reported crimes are down in that community. I think, you know, the building department can speak to the investment in some of the landowners, the multiple dwelling houses in there. You know, if you drive through there, you look, it's not like it was 5-10 years ago where a lot of those were in disrepair. There's been money pumped into that community, and you know, I'm happy to hear that the community meetings might start back up. That's one of the things too that you know, is another positive outcome of that.
Wonderful.
Right, there's two other things I wanted to add. During the meeting, there were young parents that had their kids there. There were kids in the park, and one, maybe two residents brought up something that I thought was very interesting. They mentioned something to the effect of there being individuals in the community that were still kind of like holding on to this perception of what Cedar Grove used to be and not recognizing that their community was changing and improving and getting safer. I mean, you know, years ago we had a lot of vacant properties because of the housing crisis and all that, and a lot of those have been bought up, and you got new families moving in. So it's not just Cedar Grove. There's other neighborhoods where you used to have more calls for service. Those calls have gone down. You know, those areas are safer. There's more families there. That kind of thing, and that's happening in Cedar Grove too. And to hear somebody say that some folks are clinging to this old perception of what it used to be, and then for that to be validated by so many people that were there, I think we should all keep that in mind, you know, because we might have a perception of what a neighborhood is, but we got to look at the data and see how things are changing, meeting the new neighbors, that kind of stuff.
And you did mention that, you know, one of it is communication and understanding, and there were some points that were brought up that are easily addressed. One example is one resident complains that cars drive through the park. This time of year, it's very easy to. All the streets dead end into the park, and most of the streets, there's absolutely nothing at the end. You know, that's something that we can work with highway and engineering to maybe put some kind of barrier that will still allow them to plow the streets, but would prevent people from driving through. Those are easy things, you know, but to say that, listen, we have all these problems and, you know, don't do it because of this, I still think we need to problem solve, not just cancel everything. So happy to be part of the solution to the problem.
Oh, that was another thing that came up, a little bit of a discussion with some folks about the desire for the park to be more a neighborhood park than a destination park, like Stiglmeyer and Town Park are. So that kind of gets to what you were just saying. You know?
I agree. We want the residents to use it. I mean, it's got to be open to everybody, but, you know.
Yeah, I think some of the residents there just assumed it was a neighborhood park. And, because I know the lady who organized the meeting, she said to me that we're having kids come here from Heather and different streets, which aren't really that far away. No. And it was like they were intruding on the park. I mean, it's a town park.
It is. We have to allow everybody to use it.
She did refer to it as a private park, and I was like, no, it's a community, it's Cheektowaga Park. It is a community park, you know,
Everybody
for all.
pays for it,
Yeah.
right, through their taxes, so, you know, I think that was good. I appreciate you setting that up. Or I set it
And
up and
you
you did it, so thank you.
Yeah, and to me, my opinion is, I think this not only just happens in Cedar Grove, though, too. There's other neighborhoods all throughout Cheektowaga that, you know, they obviously aren't here. They can't make it to a board meeting or whatever. So maybe we think about, you know, once a month, a different community we hit up, you know, a couple council members and board members go out there and just meet with the residents in their communities, in their neighborhoods. And maybe that starts up the block clubs, and then maybe they start their, you know, little police groups, and now you got to report right back to the police. You got a connection and liaison. And it just grows from that way. And like I said, I'm excited to see how many people show up to the second meeting, because I think that the crowd that was there for the first meeting was very nice.
Well, thank you for meeting with them, and I know they appreciate it, because somebody called me and said, why weren't we asked? And I'm like, that was a good question, because they want to know what's going on in their park. But all that's good. We just determined that's good, and at least you informed them, and I'm sure that they appreciated that. So we can do that for other areas. I mean, it seems like summer's the best time to do that, right? So,
I think it was interesting, Councilman Pilarski had asked me for a list of our neighborhoods, and, you know, that shows a little bit of your connection to the city, because I know all the districts in the city have like their neighborhood tags, and, you know, that's not as strong of a aspect in Cheektowaga, but I was able to go back, and in my time as an afternoon patrol supervisor, I used to attend all the community meetings, and there were at one point about 7 or 8 different community meetings a month in this town. And those were the days back when communication used to really happen, and the residents could hear us, and we would show up to St. Joseph's on William Street, and there would be 100 people in the basement bingo hall, listening to different representatives of the town, listening to each other, sharing information. You know, maybe that's an aspect of social media that now when you post something, you get 1,000 reads or likes or comments. So maybe it's happening in a different form, but the anonymousness of that also makes it a little bit more difficult. But
and you also have your police neighborhood watch meetings. Maybe we have to publicize that more.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked, the crime resistance division of the police department has a monthly meeting where we have a speaker. We discuss aspects that are going on within the community as far as crime related, and then we also share some you know, crime stats for different neighborhoods. You know, it has evolved to this. I think it kind of was an attempt to keep some of those people who really wanted to be involved in their communities, but the community meetings died off. So yeah, it will absolutely. We publish that when we have it on our page, but we will definitely share it.
If you could forward it to my office, we'll get it up, and to Kim Burst too.
Yep.
Because I remember going to a few of those, and it was nice because they had representatives from their neighborhoods there getting the police reports, so and then they could take it back to their neighborhoods too.
Yep.
You know, even if they don't have a meeting, but they could go and talk to their neighbors and say, this is what's going on.
I think one good thing too that we may want to look into as a board is do like a citizens academy, to where we have 15, 20 residents, you know, they go through a 6-week program, and they meet with our department heads to see how our government functions, to see that, hey, we have a housing violation that was written up in Coburn's office, but then it hits the courts and it gets delayed because then there's laws that follow that. It's not just that inspectors aren't doing anything, or it's not that, you know, things are wrong. It's just that's the process, and a little more understanding how assessments work, all that. The more we educate and communicate with our residents, the more they understand, the less angry residents we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so piggybacking off what they were talking about, some residents actually reached out to me, and they were saying that glass containers and glass, you know, was a problem. What would it take to prohibit glass containers in the park?
I would
Probably
lean
a sign.
to the attorney. I mean, if that's something you could pass as a town ordinance, you know, signage, something along those lines.
Somebody said the signs aren't very good, even when the park's supposed to be closed, there's no sign.
Yeah, so,
Did you notice
you know,
that?
signage always helps. And you know, some people follow the signs, some don't, but, you know, at least.
How do you police it, though? That is, you know.
Yeah, and you know, it would be one of those ordinances, kind of like smoking in a park, right? We say there's no smoking in the park. If somebody's smoking in the park, we'll tell them not to. You know, we haven't yet dragged anybody in on a town code violation for smoking in a park, but there are some areas that you know, you can't. So, yeah, it would be something, you know, but another thing that, you know, as you mentioned earlier, that, you know, John Shislewski, got it.
I just go
Shelsky.
John
Shell, I got to
C.
get the shell in there.
John C.
John Shislewski mentioned, you know, that when the concerns were made, that yes, we'll definitely, we'll be, his people will be in there making sure and checking up on that. You know, it's, Yeah, it's a concern, broken glass, of course, in a park, we don't want that, so.
So you met with your employees to let them know to be more diligent? Yeah, okay. Okay, so then they're going to pass it on. Good. So let's hope that works.
Yeah.
What about, Brian Pilarski, you mentioned communication system. I think that might even be under ARPA funding, but I don't know, like, what kind of systems are out there.
It very well can fall under that. I mean, even for an emergency, God forbid a train derails on Broadway, you know, how do we communicate that? I don't know. I mean, there's systems out there. Buffalo's got one where there's a text alert system, Buffalo Alert, and you can subscribe to what you want to be alerted for, whether it's, you know,
It's true, I forgot
you know, a
about the
crime in
city.
the area versus, you know, trains blowing up or
Yeah,
whatever.
you don't want to
so-
keep bothering them if they
Correct,
don't want to be
you don't want to
bothered.
keep bothering them and overdo it, but not everyone texts either. So there's no one answer, there's just many tools. And the more tools we have to you know, address it and share information, the better. It doesn't hurt to have a million of them. Mine is texting, somebody else's may be online watching the meeting and say that way. Another's maybe email, another one is a phone call, so maybe it's a robocall that goes out. Everyone's different, you know.
Correct, okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. We do have to go through the resolution items next. My packet out. So tonight, Chief Gould, you're going to present 6 officers instead of the 7. Okay. But you're leaving the resolution just with a note in there that one we're waiting for approval.
It's the civil service hiring process is quite complicated. There are many hurdles that need to be cleared. You know, we do our best to get to these as quick as we can. However, we are working with Erie County Civil Service, who are doing it for every department in Erie County. So we have one candidate left who is conditional upon the final approval from Erie County. I've been in touch with the Civil Service Department. I'm confident that will come before he starts the academy Monday. But just we had to put that one note in there. And in fact, moving forward, we'll probably put that note in just as general for that resolution, because it's just a heavy, heavy lift trying to get everything done. With timing sometimes, you know, I still have 4 days before the police academy starts, and believe it or not, 4 days is gonna make a difference, so.
So we're still approving 7 tonight?
6.
Oh, you are 6?
Approving
It's not-
6.
And then the other one?
One dropped off, one
Okay.
took an appointment with a different police agency.
All right.
We were notified last night.
Yeah, I guess
What's that?
you can use your microphone, Chris,
Yeah,
yes, so he might not hear you.
Calabrese the resolution's updated to only have 6 names.
Oh, all right, I didn't get
Okay.
the new
I didn't
resolution.
I didn't see
Okay.
that, that's why I was asking.
Yep.
Now, let me just double check with you. The other 2 from Lancaster do know they have to move into town, correct?
Yep, that's absolutely, there is, part of our process of not only the application, but also the interview, is to hammer home the fact that they will have 6 months to move into the town of Cheektowaga upon appointment. And not only do we say that, we do follow up, we do check to make sure that they are living, and we haven't had any issues with that in the past couple of years. And then moving forward, we have one more hiring cycle off of this list. The next list will be town of Cheektowaga residents only who are eligible on our list. So hopefully to prevent stuff like, you know, the hiring that, you know, I plan on 7 because I know I got at least 8 retirements coming up before the end of the year still. And, you know, one took a position with the town that she lives in. They made the offer shortly after we did, and you know, why wouldn't you take the offer from your hometown over having to move? So it's created challenges. We tried it, it didn't work.
Can you talk a little bit about the competition that's happening locally to recruit folks to local police departments?
Yeah, I mean, there is, there's a process where you can transfer police departments. If you've been hired off of an Erie County, of a state civil service list, you can go to work for another police agency. It was happening so much, and that became a problem in other parts of the states where, say, I would hire somebody, and then they go through the police academy, they get trained, and then a neighboring jurisdiction offers them a job. There is now a law where we can go after another neighboring jurisdiction to cover the cost that it cost us to train that officer if they hire them within the first 3 years. I may have to explore that shortly as, you know, we're hearing that one of our officers might be leaving for another agency who does not have 3 years on, so. But it's basically, it's happening. All police departments are hiring a lot right now, and you can kind of, you know, name your pick where you want to work, especially if you've been through the academy. Our own, you know, the 6 appointments you're going to put on tonight, 3 of them are already police officers, have the training. That's great for us because we don't have to pay them to sit in the academy for 5 months, and we expect their field training to go quicker. However, one of them is an NFTA police officer. You know, so now the NFTA is going to be one short. One of them is Erie Community College, and one of them is has worked, you know, for some smaller agencies. And it's just one of the things that we are, as a law enforcement community, aware of, that transfers, although they help us, they hurt somebody else. So, but it becomes difficult, you know, with the just, you know, attracting. We have plenty of people who want to be police officers. It's just when you get to the bottom of qualifications and will they make a good police officer, and doing the background investigations and the PT test and then residency, and there's a lot that goes into attracting good people, and we keep trying and we're doing our best. And the last 8 that we hired in January, they are currently in the field training process right now. They all passed the police academy, and they're doing well out there. So you know, we'll have them as manpower soon, but it takes 9 months from the time we hire them to the time they count as manpower. So it's challenging.
Thanks, Chief. We'll see you at 7 o'clock in a little bit. We do have the public hearing open for the 100 McKesson Parkway, so we'll take comments tonight and then hopefully close that, unless anybody else has a problem with it. So, Resolution 1 then is the transfer of funds. Resolution 2 is the warrant. Resolution 3 is the negative declaration, seeker declaration for 5030 Genesee Street. And 4 is the site plan approval. Then we have a negative seeker declaration for 2450 Walden Avenue and site plan approval. Any questions on those 2 projects?
Yeah, with the site plan, Councilmember Hammer and I were speaking about it. I'd like to hold off on this for a couple weeks after speaking with her. So I'm fine with moving forward with the seeker, but, you know, just
And which one is it, the Walden, or?
Yeah, 2022-425. So I'm gonna motion to pull that from the consent agenda.
Unless you and I can just pull it tonight, because we're the movers.
If you're fine with that, yeah,
I
let's
am.
do that. Okay.
So we're going to pull 2022, 424, and 25. They will be pulled and not even voted on tonight till we're ready to.
But, yeah,
Oh.
would you be okay with moving on 424?
Oh, yeah,
Let's at least
okay,
get the
I'm
seeker
sorry.
done.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, yes. So we'll stay with 24 and just pull the site plan. Okay, you did say that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to pull that one. 7 is, Resolution 7 is the JAG grant. Any questions on that? 8 is to support for the Western New York Stormwater Coalition Management Practices Mapping Project that Pat Bowen and Engineering are working on. 9 is the special event for the German Fest. I'm glad to see that's coming back. 10 is the authorize the supervisor to execute a subscription agreement with Lexipol LLC. It's in relation to the police department. 11 is a request for extension of residency for Mary Vogel. She was hired in January, and she needs another 6 months because of the housing market being very difficult. Number 12 is the appointment of a motor equipment operator into the sanitation department, Paul Gerace. 13 is a clerk typist, competitive temporary. 14 is hiring and termination of part-time seasonal employees. Pardon me? Oh, I don't see that. Oh, no, I have a part-time seasonal.
I do too. When it was initially printed, there was one for part-time seasonal,
So
for
there's a
police
new
department.
one up that is not, yeah, because I printed mine out when it came out. Oh, okay. So what was pulled then? It was just a police detention officer. Oh, I see. So you want to pull, can't we just move forward with that?
We had a motion on for a part-time detention officer. I will, I'll post it again for the next meeting and
Okay.
update a couple board
So
members
then, all
about
right,
it
so
prior
I
to
have
that.
to pull that up
So-
on,
Yeah, 2 weeks won't matter on that one.
okay. All right, so really then, next one is the travel authorization for building and plumbing, correct? Okay. So my numbers are all off, so I'm just gonna say the next one. And then the next one would be youth and rec termination, one termination on that one. And then the youth and recreation lifeguard wage amendment. The only thing that I was wondering about is why are we going to do retro to June of 28th instead of, I mean, they have 3.5 more weeks. I don't mind giving them a raise for 3.5 weeks, but do we really need to do,
The resolutions from 2 weeks ago had a retro to June 28th, right? So the intent of this is just to clear up what the board majority was intending to get done 2 weeks ago. And it's the same retro date from the previous resolutions that had a series of votes last time. We just had a conversation about how there's some competition in between local police departments for recruitments. We know we're losing folks in our building department to other towns for other positions. I'm sure Mr. Pilarski can speak to what's going on in the city of Buffalo and lifeguards, and we're talking just a couple more weeks. I think we have to do what we can to retain folks because we've already lost some lifeguards for one, and for two, we haven't offered the full hours for the pool that we usually do in any other year. And we've got the 2 pools that we've had open in the past. We've got both of those closed this year, which is neither here nor there. I think we're doing the best we can. But this is just an intent to clear up what we wanted to do a couple weeks ago.
So in regards to retention, City of Buffalo just put out today $20 an hour. They will pay for your training. You don't have to be a resident, and the trainings are taking place August 13th and 14th that weekend, and then the next weekend. So 2 days of training, your certification, they'll pay you for your training and pay for your training and pay you $20 an hour to sign on with them.
we do pay for the training though.
Okay, I'm just throwing out what Buffalo put out
I know,
today. So we
yeah.
may even lose, even off of this, we may lose people saying, I'm gone.
Right. Well, their problem, are they, for the winter program now, maybe?
That's the confusing part, because they
Yeah, 'cause
said
our-
they're still looking to open their pools. I don't see how they're gonna do it, maybe mid-August to mid-September,
Everybody goes
1
back to-
month.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's only there are 2 indoor pools that have water in them, so I don't know that piece of it all, but I just know the flyer they put out today through the Police Athletic League and the mayor's office was they're paying for everything, just show up that day, you don't even have to be a resident. Of course, residents get priority, but,
But that, we also have been hiring non-resident
no, yeah, I
lifeguards.
get that, I'm just saying that they're at 20 now,
Yeah.
FYI.
Okay, and then the next one is the youth and recreation hiring for the youth participant. Is that the one? Okay. I thought we already approved this one. No? It's a different? Okay. Then there's suspension of rules. Resolution 1 is executed memorandum with the Office of Real Property Tax Service. That's what we were discussing with Jill Gorman, Jill Murphy, sorry, Jill, earlier. Resolution 2 is the authorization for the town's grant consultant to execute documents pertaining to the application and acquisition of funds related to a water quality improvement program grant. Resolution 3 is the American Rescue Plan Act subrecipient agreement between the County of Erie and the Town of Cheektowaga Police Department. 4 is approved bids for the 2022 summer vehicle auction. We finally got these all taken care of. Any questions on that? Can you,
For the Tahoe going, if you do it apples to apples, leave that out of it, we got $557 less for those vehicles than we got in the previous offer. Like I said, the Tahoe was kind of an outlier, so it's like I said, it, just isn't a good comparison, but overall, we lost money on it.
but we had a lot of more bidders, not just one for each vehicle, so I
No, but the
guess we
point
just
is-
wanted to make sure that
But
it
the
was
point is,
done
if you
fairly.
go through these numbers for the last bid we had from Basil Ford, we're $557 short of the last bid we had.
But now we sold the Tahoe, which we didn't last time.
That's why I said, you have to do it apples to apples. You can't throw that into the mix.
Well, anyway, then we have Resolution 5, which is the purchase of additional medical software licenses.
Yeah, just real quick with Resolution 4, to go back to that. If council members wanted to review the bids that came in, could they go to the clerk's office for that, or is there
Yes.
somewhere else to go?
The clerk's office was there, they opened them, I think they sent us all the chart. You didn't get the chart?
I didn't see the chart come in. I can double check, but I know, I saw the resolution come through on an email. I didn't see the chart, though.
Okay, I'll make a note of it to send the chart, once they compiled it all together, but Kim, can you just send them that chart? Okay. So you can see how many bid and who they were, and what their bids were. So we got 5, and then 6 is the appointment of a temporary laborer in the sanitation department. And I think that's it. We do have need for an executive session. We could go start it now, or do you want to take a break and have it after?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, let me just read the reason. We can start part of it now and part of it later then. To discuss the employment history of particular persons and particular corporations and the proposed leases of real property. So I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go into executive session and be back at 7 o'clock.